Hi everyone, I just wanted to go through a little demonstration how to use interfaces when we're scripting to change material color for various objects. In this case, I'm using it to change the color of my hands. So here is the color of my hands right now. And I'm going to go up to these objects right here. And as you see, as soon as I touch it, I'm going to change the color of my hands to any of the color that is on these objects here in yellow, as you can see. So let me go through and explain what I'm doing here by using interfaces, and then you can kind of see. So here's my interface that I'm using here to change the color material of my VR hands. You can think of interfaces like a contract that classes can implement. So when a class implements a interface, a class can be treated as an instance of this interface. And essentially what the interface has is just has a generic a method, which I've called here on trigger hand material, and it doesn't have anything inside this method. It's a very generic method. And what I can use this is that in my other classes, I can use this and further define it. And the beauty of this is that I can define in any shape or form that I want. In this case, I've decided very specifically is to change to call this method on trigger hand material. And but I could have called it on trigger material change, and I could have used this in any other kind of class that maybe changes material on other objects that collide with each other or whatnot. But in this case, I'm really just trying to change the material of my hand, so I called it on trigger hand material. And then here I have a basically a class which are called gloves trigger. You can think of the gloves kind of like what I'm wearing on my hands. So and then what we do here is that this is still a Unity script that needs to inherit from model behavior because we're going to assign it to our object. So we need to definitely inherit from model behavior, but it's also going to inherit from on trigger, which is our interface. Just a side note, the interface itself doesn't inherit from model behavior. So just a side note there. So basically what I've done here is I have created, let's just kind of go down the list here. I've created a public material, which I'll assign later in Unity. And I've basically created a public game object. Here we have the left hand and right hand. Now I could have made these serialized fields and stuff, but just for the quick demonstration I was trying to show here, I just kept them as public. But in reality, you can make these serialized fields, and that way it's a little bit more secure. And then we've also created a renderer, which I call left rend and right rend, which we're going to use later. So because there were two objects, game objects here, we have the left and right hand, we have to have two different game objects variables. And so come on over here, as you can see, I have gone ahead and taken this method, the on-trigger hand material, and now further defined it as to what it's actually going to do in this particular class. So what I've done here is taken the left left-hand render basically, and then got the component, the render component, and stored it in the left rend, and then basically assigned the left rend one inside the material and assigned it to the material, which is over here, this material. Same thing with the right hand. I went ahead and got the render component, went inside it further with the period, and then assigned it to the same material. Basically, both hands are going to become the same material when one of the hands basically collides with it. And then over here is where the action is actually happening here. It's an on trigger enter, and then basically what I did was I said if the game the thing that's colliding with our game object, if the tag is player, then implement this method right here. So in this case, what I'm trying to say is that wherever this script is attached to, whatever game object that has a tag player collides with our game object, this is going to get this basically if statement is going to get implemented, and this is going to get basically triggered to run, and then that way we're going to get these the method, the things inside this method is going to get implemented, and then we're going to see the results. All right, so back in Unity, what I did was I went into my left hand and I added a sphere collider with a trigger, and I made this sphere collider slightly smaller so it fits in my hand. And then same thing in the right hand, I added a sphere collider that also has to be on is trigger, and then this is the basically the collider that's right here. I can make it slightly bigger just so it's not too small. And then we need to then go into our objects right here, and basically we are going to attach our on trigger script, and the script that we had, we attach that. Um, and then we attach our material that we wanted to change. So in this case, I have red attached to red, and then we add our hands. Now, with the hands, we need to consider the fact that in my situation, where is the hands exactly? So when we go into the hands right here, this is where the actual mesh render is for our hands. So I need to make sure that I attach that over here, and also over here right hand as well. Same thing right here. You can see that the mesh render is on this child object. So we're going to then attach this. So again, same thing, we would just drag it over and attach that over here. And I just basically did the same thing. Now I just create another cube and attached in another instance of our script over here. And then I just change the material color to blue, and hand, same thing, and then the yellow is the same thing. Now, then the other thing that we need also is a rigid body that needs to be attached to these as well for this to work. And so I've attached that as well, and just made them kinematic so that they don't fall on the floor, just remove the gravity. So now the other thing that we need to make sure we do is we assign our tag accordingly. So in our case, we need to attach our tag to our hands, because it's our hands that are basically interacting with they're the trigger here. So here I have actually gone in and selected our hand and assigned the player tag that we used earlier in our script, and assigned basically that player tag to it. So same thing with the left hand, and the right hand, the left hand both need the player tag on them, so that when the trigger occurs, when the collision occurs, then it recognizes that tag and is able to then change the material in our hands. If you don't assign this tag, nothing will happen. So that's all that needs to be done basically. Now the benefit of having the interface with regards to doing this is that we can create a kind of a generic way in order to assign a particular method that we can use in multiple situations, versus I could have just done this with one script. So the benefit of having the on trigger interface is that it allows us to use this method in multiple classes if we wanted to, not just in this one. So if we wanted to use this in this particular class for this particular purpose, but we want to also call this method in another class, we don't have to recreate it again. We can just use this generic method that we've created in our interface and then call it and then assign a specific basically code inside this method. So that's the benefit of using on trigger, and it's a little bit more organized.